And you're back on Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio American Network. I remain Mark Angelides, as always. And we are continuing a conversation on what's been happening geopolitically in the world, what it means for the established world order, the potential new world order. And we can't escape from that discussion talking about Greenland. Now, to talk about Greenland and what's been happening there and what will be happening there, we're very fortunate to have with us Michelle White. Thanks for being here, Michelle.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
So, Michelle, we've over the last couple of weeks, we've seen Greenland has received more attention in the world's press this week than it probably ever has since I guess the 40s. Um, and the reason for that is, of course, President Donald Trump has set his sights on being able to. Well, let's play this out actually. So initially, he said that he wanted the United States to own Greenland. Now, for those of us who've followed Donald Trump's career even before the presidency, he he has this I guess he calls it an art of the dealish type thing where he asks for everything possible, the absolute utmost limits, just to shock people. And then when they're it's kind of on the back foot, he ends up saying, eventually getting pretty much what he wants was probably about halfway on his wish list. And it seems to me that that's the case here, isn't it?
Yes, but I think he does want the whole shebang in the
Who
case of
doesn't,
Greenland.
right? Who doesn't? Alaska
Yeah.
turned out well. They called
Yes.
Alaska Seaward's Folly. They called it
Seward's Folly. Yes,
Seaward's
Seward's
Folly.
Folly.
Now look at it, right? It's
Right,
hmm.
right. No, I think in this case, he does. Just look at the trail of posts that he has on Truth Social. It's constantly, there's a
Hmm.
steady stream about Greenland, and he's upping the ante. I think that was the title of my story last week. He's upping the ante on a Saturday, saying, I'm going to tariff you all 10% more until you agree. And he's not letting off the gas. And I think he's right. You know, we do need it for national security. I'm sure you had Dave on talking about the national security implications of it. Denmark is not doing a good job taking care of Greenland. You posted the poll from several years ago that the Greenlandic people don't want to be
Hmm.
under Danish control anymore. They want independence. We just have to woo them over to our side.
So there's actually to go into that poll there. So there's been a lot of talk about how the Greenlandic people, Greenlanders, essentially they fall under Danish control here. But yes, the polling is that the majority of them, quite a sizable majority, would like to be an independent nation. However, there's a major caveat there, and that is that they would want to be an independent nation, and I think there's only about 58,000 people,
57,
57,000
56 and some
people.
change. Yeah.
56 is some change. Well, you don't know about the party they had last week when they found out Trump wasn't going to invade. So that probably up to 58,000
Oh, is
in the
it?
next 9 months. Um, so yes, so there's quite a sizable majority would like to be an independent nation, assuming that there wasn't a loss in their standard of living. Now, for those who aren't familiar, I know that you are familiar with this, Michelle, but for those of you who aren't, about 50% of Greenland's cash, it comes directly from Denmark. And so that works out to about $400 million from Denmark to Greenland. And so if you just do the basic maths with it, so that's roughly 800 million in national, well, not national, but island capital over the per year. Now, do you think that the Americans would be willing to spend, I don't know, 600, maybe 800 million on such defenses like that? To get in the full defense of the Golden Dome, the first line of defense of the Golden Dome? It seems like a bit of a bargain.
It would. I think you'd have to sell it to Congress, depending on who's in control when this comes down. But the benefits of that
Mm.
security far outweigh the cost. So I think, yes, and at the end, when Americans see how China and Russia are building up their military and Denmark is not protecting Greenland and the danger it poses to Americans, I think they will.
Yeah, so I mean, we actually don't know what the framework of the deal is going to be like.
Right.
Now, it certainly seems that Greenland will. have more boots on the ground. There'll be a lot of infrastructure building, and I'm whenever I think about oh, America's going to build some infrastructure, or any other country for that matter, I always think about the Roman legions, and they would land on the shores of Britannia in the in the early evening. Before
Right.
they went to bed, there'd be a massive camp with ramparts and defenses before they went to bed, and they would just do that every day, so they always had somewhere nice to sleep. Um, Obviously, that's not quite the case. So yeah, it's much more of a long-term
Mhm.
effort here in terms of what
Right.
infrastructure will be built for defense on Greenland. But you discussed before on Liberty Nation that there is a secondary, although not as important,
Right.
reason behind why America might want to avail itself of some presence in Greenland.
The minerals,
Mm,
absolutely, the rare earth and elements that are there. And we have them as well in Alaska. We're number 7th in the world. They're ranked 8th. China's number 1. So we definitely want those rare earth elements. They're also important for defense, but it's not an easy task. There, as you know, it's a big block of ice or rock and ice in the middle of the ocean. So the geology is not forgiving, the climate is not forgiving. There's a lack of infrastructure. It's very expensive to extract from the ground. There are other considerations like toxic chemicals and the coexistence of uranium. So this isn't an easy feat.
mm.
And again, it is secondary, but it is important.
Yeah, I wonder if that will be part of the ultimate framework because there was talk about a minerals deal with Ukraine, which I believe actually some progress will be made on that this week in particular.
Mhm.
Um, but the fact is that Denmark doesn't have the capability to extract those minerals, and let's be clear, it's a fortune's worth. It's a lot
Mhm.
of minerals. It doesn't have the resources to actually start that infrastructure project rolling and then to extract. Um, Certainly, Greenland itself doesn't. Uh, and I guess the three players that do are China, Russia, and the United States. Those are the only three players who can really utilize what's there. And I wonder if part of the ultimate framework will be that the US supplies either directly or more likely through economic vehicles that allow independent US investment into
Mhm.
building up the infrastructure necessary to extricate the minerals without releasing random bits of uranium into the world.
Right.
Um, and so I wonder if that will be part of the ultimate framework is we will help Denmark and Greenland and other European partners who might want to be involved in that or who have the right position to be involved because they really don't currently. There'd be some kind of fiscal framework which allows extrapolation of resources. And so essentially, everybody gets a little bit richer while America gets a little bit safer. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah, to sweeten the deal a little bit. Well, he's already formed an alliance with Finland for
Mm,
shipbuilding, so I would go there first. The NATO's not very happy with him, but
sure.
that's a consequence of their own actions. So I don't know if he's going to be able to get that in this, obviously not in this term, but maybe that's something that the U.S. can work on down the line with Vance or Rubio or Hegseth, who look like the heirs to the White House afterwards. But I,
Or Gavin Newsom. Or even
mhm,
Kamala Harris could be making a comeback. You never know. The betting markets are still open on that. Although
true,
you rightly point out that the betting markets currently favor a Republican
right.
winner in 2028. But you never can tell. And
You
I
never can
guess you're right.
tell.
You mentioned earlier that this whole thing's got to go back to the levers of government within the United States, and that doesn't necessarily include the president of the United States, whoever that may be,
Right.
because this is a build and a project that will take far longer than Donald Trump has left
Right.
in office. Michelle
Right.
White, thanks ever so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And that's all we have time for on this week's edition of Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I've been your host, Mark Angeles. I'd like to thank our guests today, Mr. Dave Patterson and Michelle white. And of course, thank you, the listeners at home, for taking the time each week to tune in and join us. You are appreciated. Please remember, Liberty Nation does not endorse candidates, campaigns, or legislation, and this presentation is no endorsement.